Alright, that's it. I can't take it anymore. I'm tired of playing these shitty-ass games week after week and not actually enjoying anything I do. I mean, I had this whole wall full of games and I haven't played a single thing that I've enjoyed. I mean, you think I want to play David Cage games, games about cursed frogs, or even Shadow Man? No! But fear not, it's a new year, so therefore I have a new attitude and things are going to start changing around here. I'm actually going to start playing things that I enjoy. And you know what? I'm not even going to look. I'm not even going to pick it myself. I'm going to randomly select the game off this wall. Because I'm sure anything that I pick without looking is going to be 1,000 times better than anything we've played on this channel so far. So whatever gets chosen today isn't up to me. It's not up to you. It's between the wall and God. Okay, let's see what we got here. I'm sure it can't possibly be that... You gotta be fucking kidding me. You see that? It says Spider the video game. Mind of a genius, body of a spider. Those are the 8 words I exactly needed to see that made me decide to pick up this game. You ever stare at something long enough that you're not sure what you're looking at is real? So why exactly do I own this game? Well, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? Well, let's just say it spoke to me. I mean, have you seen the cover on this thing? It has a gun and a knife for hands. How could I not pick this up? This was just one of those finds that was just begging to be collected, like a cursed artifact stored away from the light of humanity. I just figured I'd enact my civic duty by buying this game so it doesn't hurt anybody else. You're welcome. Also, as if discovering the mere existence of this game wasn't amazing enough, this game also came packing a poster inside. You know, just in case you ever wanted to display that Spider the video game pride to all your friends. Okay, so as per usual, before we dive into the actual source material and gameplay of this game, let's just take a second to soak in the cover here for a moment, because there's a lot to take in. Well, it's a spider, so that checks out. It also looks like it's menacingly leaping at you, complete with a knife and gun hand. Guys, I think I found my new sleep paralysis demon. If we flip to the back, we get a brief description of what to expect in the game. And I read, a mortally wounded scientist accidentally implants his consciousness in a nanotech marvel, a cybernetic spider. Hate it when that happens. Now shrunk to the size of a bug, you must fight to survive an onslaught of hyper-deadly artificial life experiments from your own laboratory. Armed with microweapons, you explore the lab for clues about your enemies and the key to escape. Move through a world turned upside down as you climb across ceilings, floors, and walls of over 30 bizarre 3D levels. You know, science is truly a marvel of modern society. It gives us the tools and capabilities to do things like cure diseases, create vaccinations, and, you know, upload your consciousness to insects, because why the fuck not? You knew you could do it, you knew you could, but you didn't stop to ask yourself why. Well, the only thing we know is that this is some kind of 3D platformer, so it could be fun. But why sit here and talk about it when we can be living it? So strap in, get comfortable, and ready your knives, because today we're going to be finding out what it's like to be a spider. Huh. Oh god, oh god, oh Jesus. So this game's weird existence was spawned and created by our friends over at Boss Game Studios and published by BGM Interactive exclusively to the PlayStation, so if you only had a Nintendo console at the time, you knew you were definitely missing out. Weirdly enough, their later games were solely just racing games for the Nintendo 64. Some of their titles include Top Gear Rally and World Driver Championship. They probably figured knife-armed spiders would be too much for the kiddies to handle, so they probably just stuck to racing games and played it safe. The list of games they made is fairly small. They didn't really make anything too groundbreaking, at least nothing to be remembered for. Weirdly enough, the information on the development of this game, much like the game itself, is very scarce, so it was difficult to dig up any information for this game. The only thing I can really share is that it received fairly decent scores and middle-of-the-road praise from various outlets. Otherwise, we don't really have too much to go off of besides the fact that it's some kind of 3D platformer. With all that in mind, let's see if my knife hands are up to the challenge when we try out Spider, the video game. Upon booting up the game, we enter a cutscene of a scientist doing what looks like some high-tech experimentation on a spider. I'm just glad to know our taxes are being put to good use. But something is very wrong, as it looks like some evil organization is spying on him.
I want that technology.
You would think if this guy was some smart scientist, he would have known a camera was watching him from his own lab, but I digress. Somehow they arrive in 5 seconds and bust into the lab, shooting everything in sight, including the scientist. Which begs the question, if you wanted the technology so bad, why did you literally just shoot the scientist and everything else in the room? The scientist smashes into his computer, which causes it to malfunction and upload his consciousness into the spider. The evil organization takes the scientist away, and it looks like it's up to us to get our body back. Also, just saying, if they wanted the technology, why didn't they just take his headset and leave the body? Unless they needed him to learn how to use it? Well, whatever, this organization makes no sense. The cutscene ends and we finally reach the start menu. Hell of a way to introduce the plot for what's supposed to be a simple 3D platformer, but honestly, I'm invested and eager to see how this plays out. So as one would imagine, you'll be doing a lot of spidery things in this game. You'll travel level to level in various unique locations where you'll climb, platform, swing, and fight your way to the end of each level. And trust me, life as a spider is hard and there's no shortage of threats. You'll either be left to the whims of in-level hazards such as fire and things falling from the ceiling, or your other biggest enemy, other bugs. And these aren't just any ordinary bugs, oh no. Apparently all the enemies you face in this game are also the result of your experimentation, and they all somehow broke out. How are they randomly in a museum filled with dinosaur bones, you ask? I don't know, don't ask me, you're the one who clicked on this video, you knew what you were asking for. But anyways, you'll be facing a variety of bugs and creatures that have their own unique abilities that can prove fatal if you're not careful. I'm talking insane things like spiders that bitch slap you, praying mantises that throw boomerangs at you, bomb dropping bats, rats that spit poison, wasps that shoot their stingers at you, and grasshoppers. Yeah, they don't really do anything, they're just grasshoppers. Well, that settles it then. If we're gonna hope to make it out of this alive, we're gonna need to gear up and fight fire with fire. Alright, here's our first enemy. Come on, let's go! You and me, buddy, right now. I am a god! So, yeah, when you kill other enemies, they don't fall over and die. Instead, they explode, and it's satisfying to watch. Every time. So now that we know that we're an 8-legged killing machine and that we can fight back, it's time to talk about my favorite part of this game. The weapons. Scattered throughout each level are power-ups and various weapons you can pick up to use against your enemies. Each weapon does something different, and depending on what you pick up, it will visually show one of the spider's limbs turn a silver color, indicating that it's been augmented with that technology. It's a very small visual change, but I personally thought it was a nice touch. Some different things you can pick up are a flamethrower, where you can burn your enemies with limited meters, so use it sparingly, electricity for zapping, a literal rocket launcher, which I'm sure I don't need to tell you what that does, mines, and my personal favorite, the boomerang. As far as I know, the boomerang doesn't have any limited uses, and you can just keep spamming it over and over. It's great for keeping your enemies at arm's length and not having to worry about taking damage. And the coolest part is, since you have so many limbs that are capable of destruction, you can potentially stack weapons and switch between them, making you the ultimate weapon of destruction. So just a brief mention on my second favorite part of this experience, but I love the levels and set pieces in this game. I really think the developers did a great job of taking advantage of the fact that you're this small bug in this huge world, so it left a lot of room for some unique and creative ideas. You visit various locations with different branching paths, so if you wanted to, you could finish a level in more than one way. You'll go through many different locations like your own lab, the side of a building, the sewers, a museum, and even a factory. To complete these levels, you need to get to the end and collect these, what I think are some kind of nanochip. Some levels only require you to collect one of these nanochips, while others might need you to collect 3 or 4, which means you need to find alternative routes to find these other nanochips. Some people might see this as a chore, but I personally didn't mind it since it allowed me to find different sections of a level I hadn't come across before, and some of the ways they were hidden were really well done. Not to mention the set pieces themselves were overall well made, and it never made the gameplay feel stale. One other thing I'll touch on briefly are the collectibles in this game. So as I'm sure you've seen by now, there are these strange little atom-looking items scattered across each level. These work in the same way coins in Mario or rings in Sonic do, where for every 100 you collect, you gain an additional life, and trust me, you'll need a lot of those in this game. You can also occasionally find these spider-looking tokens as well, and those will just give you additional lives without the hassle of you having to collect 100 of them. So now that I've talked about the gameplay and mechanics a bit, you'll probably agree that my outlook on this game is generally positive. I mean, the mechanics are fun, the settings are great, it's a fun little hidden PS1 gem. And you're right, I do like this game for what it is. But there's a bitter truth about this game as well, and the issue I take up with it is just based on my personal taste. This game is about 30% combat and 70% something else that's my worst enemy. Platforming. In my opinion, I think the only thing worse than platforming is platforming on games that were part of an older console generation, because let's be honest, they weren't the most well done. But allow me to be more specific about what I mean when I talk about this game in particular. So one of the cooler aspects about this game is how they really made the movement feel like you were actually playing as a spider. So for example, if you jump across a gap to a platform that's slightly slanted, you stick to it and climb up. As cool as that sounds, however, this isn't always consistent and it's not always the case. There were several times where I encountered the exact scenario I described, however, when it looked like I was going to latch into the ledge, I kept falling off instead, which means I had to start all the way at the beginning of the level. Not only that, but due to the screen size limitations, sometimes you can only see the edge of a platform, and when you jump across, you could potentially land on a platform an enemy is occupying, which means you'll inevitably take damage. Oh, yeah, something I didn't mention earlier. You see those plus signs in the top right corner of the screen? Those represent the amount of hits you can take before dying. You only get 2, and if you manage to get hit twice, it takes a life off and you have to start the level all over again. It can be frustrating due to any combination of the things I mentioned earlier, but in my experience, it's more often due to enemy placement that gets me every time. Look, I'm not the type of person that gets frustrated with the game often, and it could just be that I suck at platforming and it's one of my least favorite things in gaming, but I may have let the occasional frick slip. I know, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm better than this. As the game mentioned, there's 30 levels in all you have to complete to beat the game, and with every section you complete, you're rewarded with a cutscene of us traveling across the city to get our body back. The only frustrating part about that is there's a barrier for entry to get to the next section. In order to pass on to the next section, you have to make sure you've collected the required amount or more of the nano chips in each level. So that means that there's a level you absolutely hate that has multiple chips scattered throughout the level. Unfortunately, you'll have to collect those anyway if you want to move ahead. The only other cool thing I'll say that was really well done in this game are the boss fights. There's not many, in fact there's only 3 in total, but that was a conscious decision made by the developers because they wanted to focus on making each boss feel unique and the mechanics of the fight feel fun. One fight is pretty normal, but the other 2 are extremely cursed. Especially the brain. Fuck the brain. All my homies hate the brain. Speaking of the brain, after you completed all the levels and finally make it to where your body is, the brain is the final boss fight. And this isn't just any ordinary brain, it's your brain. I guess from the looks of things, you're fighting for control over it to put yourself back in your own body. To the normal gamer, this probably looks like an average boss fight, but to me, this looks like a visual representation of my brain fighting off that impulse to go get Taco Bell at 3 in the morning. After you defeat the brain, you emerge from this tube the enemies were keeping you in for some reason and escape the lab before the building explodes, and that's basically how the game ends. Now obviously the story wasn't their main focus here, but I do like how they came up with the concept to justify playing as a spider with super weapons in a way that was both believable and fun. And that was Spider the video game. Definitely a quirky little title that I stumbled upon, but I'd even go as far as to say that this is a nice little hidden PS1 gem. The level designs are creative, moving as a spider in gameplay is fun, and it adds a lot of replayability I think that you could probably go back to over and over. I'd even go as far as to say that I actually like this game. Oh my god. I like this game. I liked a video game. Do you know what this means? If I can force myself to like video games, then imagine what else I could do with my life. The possibilities are endless. I gotta try something. I'm doing the one thing I never thought I'd do in my life. I'm going outside! Yep, nope, still hate this. Can't win them all, I guess.